All right, we're back. Part two, finishing up our top 10 albums of 2022. We're moving on into the top five. Dom, what is your number five? Getting right into it.
Okay, beginning top five. Top fifth. I'm gonna go with 2000 by Joey Badass. I know you already mentioned this song album, Jack, but personally, when it comes to this one, I feel like the piano play was an absolute just. It felt right to me, especially with "Written in the Stars."
Yeah.
I feel like "Written in the Stars," that introduction with the piano just absolutely resonated with just a change in in feeling per se as to how the rest of the track list went along. But overall, with the rest of the songs, I feel like "Make Me Feel," "One of Us," "Want to Be Loved," "Head High," and especially having stated with "Survival's Guilt," the message was very strong in trying to incorporate the lyricism, the message he wanted to impose onto the viewers, into the realities of the harsh life that he has to go through. And as harsh as it is, he still keeps on going and pushing on through despite all the hardships. And I feel like the "Written in Stars," the last song, the 14th song, I'm pretty sure it's the last song. It's basically a good send off for all the listeners to keep on going and just despite the lyrics be different, I would say "Written in the Stars" just to keep looking up, keep your positivity up, and PogChamp your way through life, if that makes sense. I don't think that makes sense at all, but I feel like 2000 by Joey Badass made sense in terms of being something close as to the likes of like Kendrick Lamar. I'm not sure about J. Cole, but definitely close to that of Kendrick Lamar. A little bit of J. Cole maybe, but definitely Kendrick Lamar. But yeah, definitely an absolute slapper. I very much enjoyed it the first time listening to it. And it made me, how would you say, rethink my life a little bit, And I think that's like the best feeling ever when you get that moment of like clarity, just thinking about what the lyrics mean, the wordplay, the piano, especially the piano. Anytime there's like a proper piano like rhythm going on, either as an introduction, either as the outro, either as like maybe a solo in the middle of any sort of song, I feel like it just brings back the simplicity, if that makes sense. But yet that simplicity can be turned into something beautiful, and I feel like "Written in the Stars" perfectly does that well. But 2000 by Joey Badass.
It's like the meme says, Dom. It's only some real stuff. It's some real stuff that only real ones understand. Can't say the full meme, but you know what I'm referencing.
Yeah.
All right, Gio, how about you? What was your number five?
My number five for this year is Planet 9 Voyager from One We, one of the most underrated K-bands in the scene. It's literally on my list because of one song and the way they decided to portray it in their music video universe. It's basically about wanting to go, far away with like a person that you love and, live life differently, basically. And you would think, oh, they found like a special someone, a girl, and they want to go do blah, blah, blah. No, but the way that they did it in the music video is like they did it with like their parents and like their much older grandparents. And, like life is very like we have a limit. And then like the lyrics plus the whole idea of wanting to stay with this person forever and it being directed at their parents and grandparents and, people who were there who raised them. They really messed me up. Like I was about to cry the first time I watched that music video because everyone could resonate with that. Like nobody wants to lose their parents, and if we had the option to just live forever with them, like every single one of us would say yes. It's such a beautiful message, and I really like the way that they portrayed it in the music video. So yeah, that's why it's my top five. The rest of the songs are really good too. Like Jack, if you have time, I'd highly recommend checking out One We. They're really, really, really good.
Interesting. All right, I definitely gotta check that. My number five is Satin by Destin Conrad, another artist I'm pretty sure not a lot of people know. It's a R&B album, and the only way I can describe it is smooth. It's very smooth. The guy's vocals are some of the best I've heard from this year, and songs like "Down Bad," "It's Yours," and title track "Satin" are all really good. The features on it on re-listen were really good, and this was definitely one of those albums that I didn't expect to place so highly until I gave it a re-listen during this evaluation period for the top 10 list, and it just skyrocketed up towards the top of my list because of just how flawless it was. I enjoyed every song. It all the songs were real good. Perhaps on more re-listens I can like give you a more detailed explanation of like some of the messages in some of the songs, but overall I really liked it. You don't see too much R&B nowadays, and that was one of the genres I came into 2022 wanting to explore more, and this ended up being a real good track for me. Number 4, Dom, what's your number 4?
Okay, number 4, going back to an absolute, I guess, banger by The Weeknd, Dawn FM. I feel like with Dawn FM, I feel like the overall, I would say, storyline was not 100% deep, but you got the general gist of the story. You being in a car and you're about to, you're in the car, you listen to the radio, and the only radio station that pops up is Dawn FM, with Jim Carrey, which I thought it was pretty cool. We have Jim Carrey as the narration. We have guest vocals from Tyler, the Creator, and Lil Wayne too. And the 7th track, Out of Time, absolute slapper, and bringing in a bit of some classic J-pop music as the sample, and having thrown in his own vocals in, absolutely gives a good twist to bringing back some good music. But bringing back to the story itself, I feel like it's kind of depressing if you think about it, considering it's like the last music you'll hear before you're probably gonna end up either in hell or heaven or whatever. Because I don't recall the theories that we created. I think the majority of the theories that were made up were that you're basically in purgatory, you're waiting in line until you're selected. So essentially, you're waiting in this large tunnel. I believe something like that. You're waiting, and you're in your car, and you're probably already dead, and considering all your sins that you've caused and such like that, and you ended up in a vehicle with the radio on, and the only thing that's playing is Dawn FM, which is basically narrated by Jim Carrey, which essentially insinuates all your wrongdoings, as well as your inevitable demise, considering, it's too late, you can't do anything much else. And but overall, I feel like the entire album was an absolute slapper. Considering the fact that this album came out back in January, it's been quite some time. But I feel like it has really good replay value, because I feel like people still come back to The Weeknd's music. And it was, personally, I think it was an absolute slapper. I really did enjoy it. Yeah, that's my pick.
All right. I'll get into that album later. Gio, how about you? What's your number 4?
Low-key, I'm like 50-50 on mine, because I'm not, like, I really like it, but at the same time, it's like, does it really deserve to be at number 4? And it's, Jack, you might have heard of them. It's New Jeans by New Jeans. Mm-hmm. That's literally the name of the thing.
Yeah,
and they're like a brand new group to the K-pop scene, and they're like blowing up really, really, they're blowing up. I was kind of like staying away from the hype, because I was like, oh, it's another girl group. They'll probably die out in a few months, forgotten and stuff. But like, it's still like everyone's still on them, on that train. And literally like a few weeks ago, I decided to finally give it a listen. I had it on repeat for like 7 times the entire day. Like, I was playing it so much, dude. And I don't know, just because of how recently it's been. That's why I'm like, should it really be here? But I think it's really good, and I definitely see the potential behind them, and I'm really looking forward to more of their stuff.
I've heard Attention by them. Slapper.
Which one? Attention? Yeah,
Attention.
slap it, bro.
All right. My number 4 is Charlie by Charlie Puth. In my opinion, this is how you do a pop album without making it sound. What's the word I want to look for? I guess annoying in a sense. I don't know. I don't know what's the general consensus on Charlie Puth. I know people mainly, if I want to say, found out about him because of that song with Wiz Khalifa for the Fast and the Furious movie, But I don't know. I forget when. I think the last time he dropped an album was like 2019. I think it was. But this was a real good album. That's something I forgot to mention is that like a lot of these albums come from people who like their last or like especially like within like the top 6. It's like a lot of these albums came from people who hadn't dropped in like years. Or like a couple of them. But getting back to the main point with this track or this album, I just really liked it, and I liked a lot of just I guess you could say the experimentation that he did on this album with like a lot of different songs. Like there's one song called Charlie Be Quiet where he experimented with like basically it's like one part of the like to play around with the title of the track. It's kind of like if you want to say a mental battle where he's throughout the song he's basically singing about how he's got to keep his feelings hidden because if the girl finds out that he's in love with her, he's gonna scare her away. She's gonna leave him because she probably doesn't feel the same way towards him. So it plays around with that, and I guess like the voice in your head where like so many parts of the song are like quiet to sort of symbolize the voice in your head like whispering those thoughts to you, and then it gets all like super loud for like the chorus. What are some other ones where he plays around with that experimentation? There's Left and Right featuring Jungkook from BTS, where he plays around with the audio where certain parts of the song are you only hear them in your left ear and the others you only hear them in the right, and it goes back and forth a bit, and so it was fun listening to a song like that. And then also it's confusing at times when you only have one headphone on, and it's like you're wondering where's the rest of the song, and then you remember, oh, it's one of those songs where the audio goes back and forth. And then I don't know, I just really liked the contrast and sort of back and forth where I almost want to say it's like a perfect sort of breakup album just because of the back and forth, because it's like there's songs where it's sort of like that some people label it toxic, where it's like you're moving on, you don't care, and you kind of hope in a sense the worst for that person, like there's songs where Smells Like Me where you're saying like I hope you're still stuck with the memories of me, and that like your jackets still smell like me, so you're stuck with the memory of me. But then there's songs like Loser and Tears on My Piano where like he's completely heartbroken by the fact that like the girl left him, and he feel like on songs like Loser he feels like he fumbled the bag essentially, saying that like how could he have ever lost this girl who was like one in a million. So I just really enjoyed this album. Very good pop album. Dom, what is your number 3?
Okay, so for number 3, I have Melt My Eyes, See Your Future by the Denzel Curry guy. Alright, so with first initial impressions, before even listening to this album, I initially thought that this album was going to be like an absolute, like over the top, like just an absolute slapper banger per se, considering before I listened to this album, I first listened to Zoo, that was released back in 2019, which was part of the Need for Speed Heat playlist. So it always comes back to Need for Speed at the end of the day. First listened to PAT and then Birds afterwards. I originally thought that Melt My See Your Future was going to be an absolute over the top rap album that's just going to destroy your bass and your subwoofers. However, it was completely overturned listening to this album. I feel like this overall release by Curry was, I guess, smooth yet impactful rap, if that makes sense. with songs such as Walk-In, songs such as Troubles with T-Pain, which I feel like was an absolute slapper, Senjuro, and Zatuichi. I feel like all these songs went absolutely, into one a whole 180 in terms of keeping it not low key, good lyricism, and I feel like they incorporated piano as well, and the overall, I guess, aesthetics made it feel like as if I'm not sure how to explain it, and not sort of lounge vibes, but like let's say you're walking, dark at night, and you're trying to get home, and you see all these bad, vices around you. If that makes sense. But it's how would you say it was decent, and I personally liked it. And I feel like I don't think many people are talking about it these days. But personally, I feel like it was okay and good replay value. But overall, when was it released? Back in March. It was a very good album. I enjoyed it. Personally, I feel like my personal favorite might be Troubles with T-Pain. But I don't know. Many good samples came from this album, and I feel like what's also good is that the amount of samples that were procreated to make this album. I've always kept on checking them out, and it's always just crazy how they can create such a random sample from a random song that came out way back when, and making it to an absolute slapper, and incorporate that with piano, incorporate with that with the harsh. Yet impactful deep lyricism from Curry into his albums. We're overall just a good mashup. But yeah, that's for me.
All right. Gio, how about you? What was your number 3?
I mean, this is kind of expected. It's Love or Loved Part 1 from B.I. The only reason it's top 3 and not any higher is because there should have been more music on this, bro. Like, he only gave us 5 songs, like 5 bangers. Like, these are like some of the best songs ever. But I really it really deserves more. And what I really liked about this album, and from like B.I.'s writing perspective, is how different interpretations or like different ways of writing the same thing. Like he's talking about love, but he's talking about it in so many different ways that like it's kind of it's very impressive, because love has been talked about since the start of time. Okay, my voice is getting worse. Since the start of time, but for him like to get like inspiration from a movie and then turn that inspiration into a song and to perfectly illustrate his points, it's so. I love B.I. so much. He's so talented. So, like to give out like shout outs to the songs. Middle with You is really good. Tangerine is probably like the most unique song off of this album. Jack, and Dominic, I really hope you guys give it a chance. It's Love or Lost Part 1 from B.I.
I've listened to it.
It's really good, dude. It's so good, man. Like, I don't know. Like, you have like B2B2, which came out with a pre-release like a few months ago, or like 6 months ago, which is still a banger to this day. Like, it still holds up to what it was at the start. Like, I could still listen to it like it came out yesterday. And just it's so good. Like he has so much potential to be one of the top artists in Korea. I love it, bro. He's him, bro. He's him.
He's him. He needs to come back, bro.
Yeah.
He's been on that comeback since what was it? Was it Waterfall? Was that no?
Yeah, Waterfall.
Was that
That's like
album? Like the first solo album he dropped?
Yeah, Waterfall. His comeback, bro. He's been on something ever since.
And then Cosmos.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I was gonna mention that because I wasn't here for the 2021 top 10, but if I were to say like my 21 top album of the year is Cosmos, dude.
He has better album covers, bro. They're all so beautiful.
Yeah, everything about B.I. is so it's amazing.
Yeah, B.I. is really good. Oh, I'm so sad that he had to leave Icon, and now that like Icon barely makes music, and then that could potentially be their final album. All right, my number 3, and it's only at number 3 and not number 2, because number 2 has a sort of a sentimental, I guess you could say, advantage over number 3. But number 3 is flawless in every way. It's 7 for 7. It's a perfect album to me. I don't know how people feel about it because I've seen a lot of people sort of talk about it in negative ways, and it could also just be a thing of I'm not the most seasoned fan of this group, but I have Between 1 and 2 by Twice at number 3. It is just a perfect album to me. It is back to back to back to back, etc. So 7 for 7. All songs are real good. All members had some of the best vocal performances a lot on these tracks. Like Queen of Hearts is still one of the most impressive vocal performances I've heard. The songs are just bangers. I don't know what you want me to say. Like Brave, Basics, Talk That Talk, Queen of Hearts, Trouble, Gone, When We Were Kids is a nice emotional ending to the song, or the album, I mean. It's just a banger all the way through, bro.
I completely agree, bro.
I'm trying to remember where Formula of Love ended last year, but this is the second year in a row that at least I can confirm that Twice ended up top 5, I believe. They're just them, bro. They are them.
They're them, bro. They're the it group of Korea.
I don't want to hear it, bro. Twice is them. I have been fully converted to a Twice fan. Dom, how about number 2? What's your number 2 looking like?
Okay, so number 2, although it recently was released, Heroes and Villains by the Metro Boomin. Okay, the majority of the discography I enjoyed, not to the best, but I feel like the majority were okay. However, the biggest however, the last song with A$AP Rocky, who was in Need for Speed, featuring A$AP Rocky, and with that final bit with Takeoff, I feel like it was an absolute slapper. I feel like, despite the rest of the discography, which was okay, or well off, I enjoyed it. It was, back-to-back slappers. That last song was, I think, it was sad to hear, right? Because, whatever happened with, everything that happened with Takeoff, and rest in peace. The sample, I'm not sure if you guys seen the, I'm pretty sure a small, visualizer on YouTube, it repeats constantly, but it looks nice. It how would you say it? It resonates with how would you say? I'm not sure how to explain it, but a nice, soft sample, and then you have such although simple lyricism coming from A$AP Rocky. Why do we need new things? Why do we already have? How would you say?
When he says, why do we need new shoes?
Yeah, well, we need new shoes. We already have a vehicle. We only have 2 seats needed for a vehicle. So why do we need an entire coupe, or a new car? But then afterwards, we then come in with Takeoff with the alphabetical, word down. When I feel like that was so smooth, because I think it goes through the entire alphabet with his lyricism in I don't know how much time, but it was so good, and I feel like that just carried the entire album in and of itself, and just I still keep listening to this day. Just last night, I played it, and just that intro with the sample, Feel the Fire, and it's just, oh man, I don't know why. It just and I'm listening to different alterated versions on YouTube, slow down with reverb, or just slow down in general, and it's a feel good album, as a final, I guess, send off for Takeoff, because we all know what happened, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I feel like just this entire album is just so well made. To some people, they might not enjoy it, but I feel like Metro Boom really produced this album well. I feel like all the features were very good, and it's just I don't know. To me, it was very nice. It was very good. That, and just to come back again to that last song, "Feel the Fire." It basically pays homage to just a good old classic sample to be used, and it's the beat itself also was very nice as well, and that's what Heroes and Villains, slapper, banger, PogChamp.
All right, Gio. How about your number 2?
My top 2 at the number 2 overall pick. It's between one and 2 by Twice. Like you said, 7 for 7, not a single miss. It's like me when I play Widow. Dude, it's such a good album. From Talk That Talk, quite possibly one of the best title tracks, if not the best title track they've ever released. Queen of Hearts, impeccable stuff. Basic, such a good song. Trouble, unrivaled. Brave, legendary. Gone, undisputed. And then when we were kids, it just has that like emotional weight because of when it was released. It was so much on the line. Nobody knew what was gonna happen. Like you just listen to that song and you're just like, "Whoa, dude, what does this mean? Is it the end? Are they looking back and realizing what they've done? Looking back at their careers and be like, yo, I think this is time for us to stop. Leave it on a good note." Like there was so much uncertainty at the time. Dude, like it couldn't have dropped at a better moment. And dude, it's just 7 for 7, dude. Like straight banger of an album.
Absolute banger, bro. Like it's like Joe said, absolute banger. 7 for 7, not like his Widow, but
what do you mean, dude?
Only flaw I will say is that it's so short. It's only 7 songs, but at the same time, it's perfect because you don't get no filler in it. You don't get nothing to dilute the album. It's just banger after banger after banger. My number 2, like I said, it has sentimental value. My number 2 is Dawn FM by The Weeknd. This dropped all the way back in the first week of the year. January 6th was when it dropped. And I just love this album. It's not perfect. The features to me to this day, though the opinions are controversial, it's still miss. I still, even when I go back, I just can't get into Tyler the Creator and Lil Wayne's features on this. I don't know. It's still, like, I don't want it to make this such a negative thing, but it still baffles me to this day that The Weeknd chose those 2 as features because they just don't fit on either of their songs. I don't know, but the rest of the album to me is just absolutely perfect. Like Dom said, the whole sort of story behind it all, the fact that it's tying in this whole eventual trilogy of albums, starting with After Hours, and then how at the end of After Hours he's dead, and so here he is going into the afterlife, and he's portraying the afterlife and sort of what's it called? Oh my gosh, it's not purgatory. What the hell did they call? Oh wait, is it purgatory? Hold on. No, I don't think it's purgatory. Or is it? I don't know if it's. I don't think purgatory is the right phrase. But basically, you're in like this waiting point, where you're waiting to get to the afterlife. And so he portrays like that waiting point as, driving through, I forget what he portrayed, but it's basically listening to a radio station as you're like waiting to get to the afterlife. And you're sort of in that middle point where you're already dead, but you're not in the afterlife yet, so you're here waiting, and that's what the whole sort of radio station portrays. And I just love how I still love to this day the final track where it's just Jim Carrey talking, because he narrates throughout the entire album. I just like, how Don brought it up, where like at the very end it brings in that whole existential crisis sort of feeling where he's asking, did you feel you achieved everything that you wanted out of this life? Did you get the most out of it? Do you feel any regrets in your life? And the songs themselves are absolute bangers. Gasoline, Sacrifice, Out of Time, Is There Someone Else, Less Than Zero. I know it wasn't included technically on the album when it originally dropped, but Moth to a Flame is extremely good. Best Friends, what's it called? How Do I Make You Love Me? I mean, it's just banger after banger. I'll never forget the experience of listening to that album when it dropped, because he also did like a mini sort of he partnered with like Amazon, and he streamed it on Twitch, where it was like supposed to be him DJing the event, and it was just real cool to see and listen to those songs. Me and a friend of mine were basically doing like a listening party together, where it was just like the two of us reacting back and forth after as listening to the songs together. And yeah, it's just such a banger album that dropped at the start of the year, and it holds such sentimental value to me, because I don't think I ever mentioned it on the podcast when we reviewed it, Dom, but obviously all the homies know. The day before I sadly lost my dog, we had to put him down, and so it was one of the darkest times of my life. The start of this year was not very kind to me, and it was like my birthday was 2 days later, and I was like, how the hell am I supposed to celebrate my birthday knowing I just lost my dog, my best friend for nearly 11 years. But this album was there to at least pick me up for just a little bit and really help me out, and so that's why I have it at number 2, because it just helped me at a time when I really needed a smile and needed to feel uplifted, and that's what this album did for me. And plus, it still has insane replay value. It was it was my most listened album for a reason. A lot of its tracks were amongst my top 10, My only complaint with it is or not even complaint, but I just didn't really like the album cover too much. But I get the theme that he's still continuing, where his face is always on it. I just found a different one to continue that trend, but really great album at my number 2. And now we move into the coveted number 1 spot. About 13 minutes left. That's enough time for each of us to give our number 1. Dom, let's start it off with you. Number 1.
Numero uno. An absolute slapper from Kendrick Lamarson, Mr. Morale, and the Big Steppers. I feel like Kendrick, after the long-awaited time that we have all, I guess, gone through, I feel like the recent album from Kendrick, with a little bit of bias too, of course. How would you say? It was brutal. It was tough to listen to, in a good way per se. Considering it's raw, it's deep. Such a song was like "We Cried Together" was just to many people, as unfortunate as the song is in terms of its messaging, many people live through that. So it can resonate with many people. However, it's, how would you say, it was just an overall slapper, back to back. Every song just went deep, it went groovy. But there were also some really nice songs, such as Purple Hearts, coming after We Cried Together, was really good, and I really enjoyed it. What else? United in Grief and N95 were very deep. Die Hard was really nice. I feel like Amanda Reifer did really well on her part in this song. Father Time was pretty okay. Although the little oddity that I did find was the children like dancing, and you could hear their footsteps in the background, or at the end or at the start of some of these songs, which I kind of wanted to say I didn't understand it, although I did kind of understand it after like watching reviews and like theories as to the foot tapping and all that stuff. But aside from that, I feel like Kendrick did make an absolute slapper with this album, and personally, I always still come back to this. I always still see some like memes made from this album, like what was it? We Cried Together. Like whenever it's like someone's having like an argument, they always play this song in the background, or like the instrumentals of the song in the background. And it's just, although the entire song is meant to be two people fighting, it always fits with any argument online. like on any video, and I just feel like it plays well. It plays well. Count Me Out was very nice as well. I enjoyed it. Silent Hill with Kodak Black was a bit odd, but I enjoyed it as well. Savior with Baby Keem was pretty was a good slapper, I'd say. What else? Mirror to end it off was also nice as well. But to top it all off, I feel like what made this album even better was being able to listen to it live, to hear his voice and to see him like perform the songs live at the Crypto Arena when I wasn't supposed to, but it was hearing him live did make the entire difference in terms of the experience, and overall I think this album has very good replay value. I think Kendrick, I hope whatever he does next, I guess slaps even more, I hope. But yeah, this is my number one pick, PogChamp.
Surprisingly, it only makes the honorable mentions for me, but I just want to say, because you brought it up, Mirror is still probably one of the best outro tracks from the year. Mirror is an absolute slapper, and I just love the whole meaning behind it, and him, finally, essentially speaking up for himself and saying, I'm tired of trying to be the people's savior nowadays, that they forced him into that position, and that now he's focusing on himself,
Yeah.
Really loved it, and definitely one of the funniest albums to see on like social media, like Twitter and Instagram and stuff that day, because of just people's reaction to it. Because again, it was like the first album in like 5 years, and I'll just never forget people's reactions listening to Auntie Diary. You remember, Dom?
Oh yeah.
Kendrick, you can't say that word. Dude, that was, oh my gosh, that was one of the funniest days of social media I remember with that album. Freaking just, Kendrick, you can't say that word. Oh wait, he explained it, he apologized. Wait, he said it again like 3 times. Dude, that album day was too funny. Gio, how about you? What was your number one?
Okay, my top pick is literally summarized by this meme, the Shaq one, where he's like, I wasn't familiar with your game, and it's Magic Man from Jackson Wang. I out of curiosity, I just checked this album out because I was like, oh, it came out. I listened to a song of his recently. Let me see what he the rest of it. Let's see what he's got. And dude, it just blew me away. Like, this one was also on repeat for like the entirety of the day it came out, and the next day, and the day after that. It has so many bangers, dude. Like, I was surprised because he comes from like the K-pop world, right? So I was expecting like his album to be like K-pop-y and have that same sound, but like all of it is pop and all of it is in English. And I was like, whoa, I wasn't familiar with that aspect of you. That's why that meme is so relevant to this entire album. Just like Magic, the 7th track is probably my favorite one off of it. It's just so good. I like how at certain points the tempo goes up, and then it just after a little bit, it goes back to a slower, much more soothing tempo. Is just like Magic. It's such a good song. And all of the music videos that he did for 3 of these songs, absolute bangers. Dude, Blow is probably one of my favorite music videos from 2022. It's the cinematography of it is so beautiful. The way it was shot, it's literally, dude, it's so good. For Cruel, it's literally action packed, straight out of video games. And I was just whoa, this guy, he's basically he's not at BI's level for me, but he's very good. Creatively, he's got it. He could be, second to BI if he wanted to, if he actually really tried. And then the 10th track, Blue, it's so, I don't know, it has a much sadder tone to it, but the lyrics to it aren't necessarily the same level of sad. It's just sonically it sounds a little bit depressing. but the lyrics are actually like uplifting. So there's like that nice contrast between the two. And like, you know, it's just, dude, it's so Jack. If you haven't heard it yet, Magic Man by Jackson Wang, dude, it's such a good album, and it ranks number one for me this year. And the album cover is fire.
All right. See, Gio knows from all the episodes we were covering K-pop that album covers are a big thing to me, and it goes to show because my number one, the album cover is absolutely amazing, and my number one is an album that I actually when it dropped, I forgot it had dropped until I saw that Anthony Fantano was doing an interview with the artist, and that interview really helped out this album and how much I enjoyed it because of just the explanation behind it that I got and all that, and the extra information and context. Melt My Eyes, See Your Future by Denzel Curry. It's also a bit cheating if you want to say that the deluxe version helped it out because it didn't add extra songs, and instead added live studio renditions of a lot of the songs that just were absolutely beautiful with the real instruments right there and Denzel's raw vocals. But in that interview, you know, Denzel kind of explained that like he's been having this album in the works since 2018 essentially, and there was so much stuff on it that he wanted to talk about, but he waited so long because he wanted to experience a lot of the stuff that he talks about on this album first. He had stuff he wanted to talk about, but he knew he hadn't experienced it yet, or at least in a mature way. So he waited and waited until we get to 2022, where he feels he can finally put this album together after like 4 years of waiting, in a sense. And he dropped projects in between to keep the fans, you know, happy with albums and stuff. He did, like Dom mentioned, Zoo back in 2019, which was kind of a homage to, you know, where he's from, Florida, and the sound. And that was another thing he mentioned in the interview, was just, you know, he started off this rap stuff so young, and you can see that reflected through his career, where it's like, you know, a lot of the stuff sounds immature, if you want to say. Like, he mentioned some of the lyrics he would say, and he was like, I was young and stupid saying some of that stuff, but he's matured now. And not only has he matured, but his sound has matured, where he talked about, you know, as a kid growing up, the only way he knew how to express himself was through anger, through aggression. And so you hear that in the music, where you still hear his voice here have that sort of aggressive tone to it, but he's channeling it in a way to express himself differently, you know, and show that he's matured, where it's not coming from anger and aggression. This is just the natural tone of his voice, but he's coming from a place of hurt, from trauma, from, you know, even talking about I love that he was talking about stuff on this album that is almost in a sense considered like taboo, which is funny because he has an album called Taboo, but like there was stuff where he was talking about that you were like, not a lot of people would, you know, essentially have the balls to admit some of the stuff he was talking about, you know, like so many of the tracks where it's like, you know, he admits, you know, that like he became a sex addict at one point, and then like it was like revealed that like he thinks it was caused by the fact that he was molested young, and you know that had an effect on how he grew up, where you know that was now on his mind because of that happening to him at such a young age and all that. And you know, just there's so much that I could just say more about this album, you know, because it's just, he just takes such a deep dive into all these different topics, and the album is so cohesive, but yet no record feels same to one another, and they're so unique and diverse. Ain't No Way is probably one of the craziest tracks if you look in like the story, where it's like it was one person's track, then it was another's, and they tried giving it to another person, and then finally it just so happened that all the people that are featured on that song were in the same city on the same day, and so they all came together to record it. Mental and Angels are absolute beautiful slow songs with just beautiful lyricism behind it. Walking is probably still one of my favorite tracks of the year, and it's just so good from start to finish. I can play that over and over. Melt Session #1, Worst Come to Worst, absolute bangers front and back. Denzel finds a way to still be recognized and still have popularity and still be underrated in the hip-hop world, in the general music world. But I'm glad that with this album, I hope more people come to respect him and come to really appreciate just this overall mature sound that he has. And with 10 seconds left, thank you all for joining for our top 10 albums of the year. I'm Jack, joined by
Dominic Castillo.
Giovanni.
Thank you, and we'll catch you on the next episode.